Let me get an ink pen.
Okay.
I got ink pens.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Warren City Schools Board of Education regular meeting. Today is Friday, June 28th, 2024, and the time is 12:01 p.m. We are in the Administration Building in the Harriet T. Upton Room with live stream available at warrencityschools.org. This meeting is a meeting of the Warren City Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participating during the meeting as indicated in agenda items number 11A and 11B. This time I'll call the meeting to order, and if everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could we please have a roll call?
Dr. Alls?
She is excused.
Mr. Flanagan?
Here.
Mrs. Patterson?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Mrs. Limperis?
Here, and we do have a quorum. There's no need for agenda item number 3, executive session, so we will move right along to agenda item number 4, communications. Mr. Shiro, please.
Thank you. I have 3 communications for you this afternoon. First, the legal notice went out as a request for statement of qualification for design services. This was to, I believe, Mr. Lacey, be published today. And this is where the Warren City School District Board of Education is requesting statements of qualification for the professional design services related to the demolition and reconstruction of the existing east visitor seating, including construction of associated restrooms, concession, and storage facilities, etc. This is the next phase of the work we need to do at the stadium. As the board is well aware, as I'm sure the community is, that area was a WPA project. We stopped using the inside of it many years ago, though it's never been condemned. I would choose not to go in it. So we do not use that facility because it is in significant disrepair. And so we are planning after the football season, if everything goes according to plan, to have a plan, demolish the east side stands, take apart the seating, have a smaller building put underneath there because we will need restrooms, we will need concession areas, also concession areas for the softball and baseball fields because they also need that access as well as restroom. And so building that area with a little bit of storage and then reconstructing the east side stands as well as other necessary ADA renovations that would come with the project. So that it is currently out, and I just wanted everyone to know that we are proceeding with that. Doesn't mean we're going to do it, but at some point we know we have to do it. But we're in progress and in the process of doing that. Little side note: I believe the Student Recreation and Wellness Center is on target to be completed in August. Again, once we have the facility completed, we're going to get the start of the school year going. We're going to work on student integration. That is our focus at the Student Recreation and Wellness Center. And after several months of our students having the opportunity to engage and integrate with the center, then we will look, as an administration, look at opportunities where we can engage our community. Just like in the past, we've had indoor walking at the high school during different years from certain hours. We might be able to start with something like that. But we definitely are working with engagement of our students first. And again, just like any year, once mid-August rolls around, the priority is the start of school. So even though those dates are coinciding, we're going to get school up and running, hopefully in an amazing positive way. And then we'll be diving right in, and we will be working on an opening event, ribbon cutting, something like that. And that may be as late as September. So that's my first communication, the RFQs. Another communication for the board, great news. Right now we have 5 students that are going to be summer graduates, potential 6th student, and so we're going to see how their academics proceed over the next month. But we are planning on either an August graduation ceremony or recognizing them at a Board of Education meeting. I talked with Dr. Ulisny this morning about the commitment of the students and their participation. Again, if they want to participate and engage, we want to do everything we can for them. If they don't have a strong interest, in a ceremony. So again, it's their day. So her staff is going to work with that over the next couple of weeks, and maybe as early as the next Board of Education meeting, I'll have more information on how Dr. Ulisny and her team are recommending we proceed. And finally, my last communication today is the superintendent's report. Should be an exciting one. It'll be the presentation of our new athletic director to the Warren City School District, and that should be coming up very shortly.
Thank you very much. I would like to have a motion to adopt the agenda, please.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
And Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. Agenda item number 6, the treasurer's report. Mrs. Cortino, please.
Yes, so we're here today to finalize our fiscal year 2024 and to begin appropriations for fiscal year 2025. So I just wanted to give you a recap of how we're ending fiscal year 24 and what fiscal year 25 is going to look like. So in terms of 2024, our general fund beginning balance when we started out the fiscal year was approximately $61 million. We are ending with $69 million. In that total, we have about $2 million in purchase orders outstanding to bring us down to an unencumbered balance of about $67 million, which is in line with what our financial forecast was. Overall, all funds, we have a fund balance of $95.5 million. And in terms of transfers that are proposed on your agenda today, we are, as was discussed when I did the 5-year forecast, we're proposing a transfer from the general fund to our permanent improvement fund of $2 million. And then we are transferring to cover deficit fund balances in our athletics fund in the amount of $66,630.73, which I am happy to say is about $10,000 less than we did last year. So we had a little bit more in athletic ticket sales than previous years.
May I
And-
ask a question about that?
Sure.
Because I know we've talked about this in years past, about potentially, is it a good idea to bump up that initial budget so that we're not transferring as much?
Well,
I mean, we know we're gonna
what
transfer
happens
every
with
year.
the athletics fund is they have a set budget of about $225,000 each year. Okay, so then whatever they bring in sales, then the
Offsets
general fund subsidizes the difference. So, you know, we did move the budget from $200,000 previously to $225,000. That helps cover additional things that have come up, such as esports.
Right, right.
Things like that. But,
I'm sorry.
so if we up the budget, it all falls out at the end of the year in terms of what athletics did not receive in comparison to what they needed to fund their budget.
Okay. Do you have any, finance guy, you have any questions?
Does that make sense, or do you have any
Yeah.
other questions regarding that?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then for our appropriations for fiscal year '25, we ended up all funds at $135,594, $342.95. So we were within, of course, our estimated resources to cover that. And then for fiscal year '25, one of the things I wanted to point out in terms of our federal funding, okay, we always get our title grants and our IDEA special education grants. And in fiscal 2025, we have $9,168,000, which is only, at this point in time, $10,000 less than we received last year in all allocations. So we are consistent with our grant allocations from fiscal year '24 to fiscal year '25. And that always gets looked at during the year in terms of reallocations and whatnot, so that number could change. But for fiscal year 2025, we have approximately $129,000 in temporary appropriations we are approving today. Temporary appropriations are what gets us through until we pass our permanent appropriation measure, which is by Ohio Revised Code required to be done by September 30th of each fiscal year. So temporary is mandatory to get you to start off the fiscal year. We probably will have additional grants come in between July and August that will get considered and increase those totals. So everything's looking well, and I wanted to also point out with the transfer to our permanent improvement fund, we will be ending the balance in there at $11.7 million in our permanent improvement fund.
Oh, wow, okay.
Okay.
Nice, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
At our TCTC board meeting last night, the legislative representative, he said that with our ESSER dollars, that they have to be spent by, is it September?
They have recently moved it till December 31st.
Okay, so, because I see it as part of the appropriation, so
Yeah.
that's okay now.
Yeah, ESSER is,
Okay.
we are down to just a couple $1 million left out of our
Okay.
final allocation that will be spent between now and then. So
Thank you.
we are on target to have that all spent out.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Does anyone have any other questions? The board? No, everybody's good? Okay, thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Agenda item number 7, the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Well, it's an exciting day for Warren G. Harding and the Warren City School District with the changing of the guard that we're going to have here. Mr. Nicholson has met with me several months ago, in fact, the last couple years, and looking to change positions up. And as timing has worked out over the last several months, we've worked to transition Mr. Nicholson into his current position, which will start officially on Monday. We did an extensive search for athletic director, and on behalf of the search committee, we are very confident in our selection. We had our search committee, which included Chief Academic Officer Hartzell, Associate Superintendent Capers, Executive Director of Business Operations, Mr. Lacey, outgoing Athletic Director Nicholson, and Warren G. Harding High School Principal Dr. Ulisny. This is the group that worked with me. We had over 20 applicants for the position. 10 were very highly qualified with great experience from across the region, across the state, as well as degrees in sports management. But one thing was very clear as we were going through the process. Rick Shepis had risen to the top with having clearly the most outstanding experience, as well as time and commitment in programs and aligning with the work that we wish to do in our district over the next several years. So a little bit about Mr. Shepis. He is a 1983 graduate of Cardinal Mooney High School. So he grew up in this area. If you ask him where he grew up, he would tell you Nebo. He grew up in Nebo, for which I am familiar. And after he graduated, he was well known as a football player, as well as a coach, going from Mooney to Youngstown State University, onward to Poland Seminary High School, Seneca Valley High School, Massillon, Washington, where he served as both the head football coach and the athletic director, which is impressive within itself in that position, even in the time. Onward to Waynesburg University, where he had an extensive time period there that was successful. And then most recently, his work in the Youngstown City Schools. And I would say from a member of the conference, when Youngstown had to bow out of the conference, I was the superintendent that got the room settled that, you know what, they're just getting beat up at this point, and we need to not hold them to the extra commitment. If they need to refocus what they're doing, let's let them do what's best for kids. And as a conference, we released, East from the conference at that time. Well, shortly thereafter, when they got settled, Rick Shepis, I believe, is credited for bringing back athletics to not just one, but the 2 high schools in the Youngstown City Schools, which is just great for kids. And that is exactly something the city needed, the city schools needed. In looking at this and looking at where we're going, I can say on behalf of the committee, we believe that Rick Shepis is the most qualified and the best person for the position, moving Warren G. Harding athletics into the future. So at this time, I'd like to let Mr. Shepis come on up, say a few words, and board has any questions,
Just right here is good.
wherever you like.
I'd just like to say thank you to Mr. Shiro, to the interview committee, and to the people that I've met so far here, to the school board here in Warren City, about providing me with this privilege to come in here and serve not only your students, who are number one in my mind, but serve your building principals, serve the faculty and staff academically, in support of these young men and women and what we're about to do in this community here. I can't help but think about how God is present in my life, with providing blessings, which are great. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate Billy Nicholson for my work in Youngstown City, because a lot of people don't see what goes on behind the scenes. And I will tell you that Billy was a leader. He helped me steer a group of athletic directors to provide opportunities primarily, for the Olympic sport students, which are, had made transportation easier, provided opportunities, provided them with recognition. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without his support. We worked out the football issues, which are a little bit more, tedious to work through. So, but I can't tell you how excited I am to be a part of your organization here. I will say this: I don't do anything unless I believe in what you're doing here. And with every day I have a chance to be around, and with every person that I meet, I can't tell you how grateful I am to be a part of this team. And hopefully, I think I will be a value add. I know I will be in several different areas. And I will work very hard on behalf of your students. I appreciate you.
Any questions from the board for me or Mr. Shepis?
No questions. First, I would like to say I'm sorry to hear you graduated from Cardinal Mooney High School. No, my wife is actually a Cardinal Mooney Cardinal as well. But we're excited to have you. We're excited about. I've heard some of the vision that you may have for our programs and our students here in Warren City as student athletes and for our athletic programs, and really excited about what the future holds. I'm excited to work with you and make this thing happen.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Regina?
I just want to say welcome to Warren City Schools.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I want to say welcome to Mr. Shepis. I am very familiar with him. As he said when we were walking, we had a few tussles back in the day on the football field. And finally and we're on the same team now. That's a good thing. You finally woke up. And now we are teammates. That's a good thing. No, but really, welcome, Rick. From what I know about you and what I've read about you and what I've seen, I think you are an excellent selection. And the vision, as Mr. Walker said, the vision that you have for our student athletes moving forward, I think, is tremendous. And I am also excited to see where our athletics go and where our student athletes go. Welcome. If there's anything I can do to help make this journey any easier, please feel free to let me know.
Yeah, you'd definitely be excited to know that the model that I used in Youngstown City to bring back Youngstown Shandy came from the model that Warren used when they added Warren Western Reserve High School.
Yes.
I'm grateful to be the age that I am, because it gives me that perspective of old and new. I've had the opportunity to get experience with so many. But, why reinvent the wheel, when Warren City did it so well back in the beginning of the late 50s, early 1960s, where they brought Warren Western Reserve in the power, you have to say that because, the first state championship was won by Warren Western Reserve High School. So I followed that to a T. I didn't question it. I thought it was a great way to stage in Cheney as a winner. You were able to do that here, and I'm grateful for knowing that took place here.
Well, and I'll just close with, again, welcome to the district. We are super excited to, have you here. I'm glad that the board, we stepped back and let our leadership team, handle the hiring process and everything. And just reading the materials that you submitted, totally aligns with everything that this school district is. And there was no way you would have known that, ahead of time. So I'm just very excited, again, to see what you do with our programming, with our student athletes. I'm pro wrestling program, so just kind of keep that in the back of your hat. I've been pushing for a little bit for that, as an addition. But I think great things are ahead. And of course, you look at the Recreation and Wellness Center. I mean, what a great time to begin your career with Warren City Schools. So we welcome you.
And it's impressive what Mr. Shiro's been able to do here. And
Yes.
I can see that commitment to the district in every facet of the meetings I was able to sit in on yesterday and the people that I met. So looking to support him as he continues to lead the district and be a value add to him here.
Thank you again, and welcome. Welcome to the A team. I will say that.
Well,
That's Mr. Faulkner.
absolutely. And again, I thank the board for their support. And again, just like Mr. Shepa said, I'd like to thank Mr. Nicholson for his over decade of running the
Yes.
programs. Really, I'm not sure if he has some buyer's remorse that he's moving it from the athletic office right now. He might.
Oh.
I think he's already missing it a little bit. But I have to say that he's done an excellent job in the work that we have needed from our students, getting us through a pandemic and dealing with changing times that no one could imagine was
Right.
taking place.
Right.
So I just appreciate, Bill and he's going to be available for the transition.
Very nice.
We've already had conversation and meetings, and he's already prepared to hit the ground running, as I shared with the board in a separate communication in his new role as projects coordinator. Because again, just like with the RFQ, we got projects coming.
We do.
So
Yes,
lots
we
of
do.
things. So thank you guys very much.
All right.
That concludes the superintendent's report for this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Shiro. We'll move on to agenda item number 8, the Board of Education Committee Reports, Athletics. Mr. Nicholson, you're still up.
I'd like to start by complimenting Rick. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. Mr. Shiro, same with you. Thank you for the kind words, board. Appreciate everything we've done the last 10 years. Done a lot of positive things, and going to continue to do positive things. And Rick, I've already told Rick, he needs me on there.
Thank you.
I'll be there opening night for the football game. We go over logistics, everything like that. The 50th anniversary of the 1974 state championship when GRD has a football team that I've already got the ball rolling. That's something he doesn't have to worry about. We've done this before, and we'll continue to do it. There you go. So I'm going to stay involved in a lot of things, and it will take me a lot of break away totally from athletics because I do love sports. I hope you guys realize that I love sports. I love all the sports, including the non-revenue, what Rick calls the Olympic sports. I love going to baseball games, softball games, and watching those kids play. So the one thing I have to report out today, if you've been by our stadium recently, by the Atlantic Street lot, we've got our new video board up at the stadium finally.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, it's beautiful. Telling to Tebby, the soccer coach, was there the other night when I was out there, I stayed until the final thing was inserted. Because you're like a little kid, you're all giddy, and I'm like, yeah, it's like this is a baby. We developed this baby, and now to see it finally get placed in, it's beautiful. And it'll be the gem. Everybody that comes in here is going to be jealous of what we got. So, and Brandon Giovanni, myself, and I'm going to work with Fred Whitaker, and we're going to receive some training to operate this board, and looking forward to doing that. And I think our fans are going to enjoy this component that's being added to the game day experience. So thank you for making it happen.
Absolutely.
All right. Any questions?
No, I would just like to add our band shell
Oh, yes.
looks phenomenal.
Yes.
One of a kind.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's awesome.
The whole package.
The entire complex is,
So if I can make a comment
Amazing.
about the video board. We were, as an athletic council, over 5 years ago,
yes.
purchasing a video board. And we were going to finalize that at our meeting the third week in March of 2019. I'm glad we didn't do it in February where we signed the contract because COVID hit
Yeah.
and the world took a spin.
Yes.
So we
2020.
have patiently, went from where we knew we needed a video board to where a video board just outright died. The sound system died. I mean, the sound's been awful.
We hobbled along.
I mean, we after COVID, we wanted to be very prudent and
Yeah.
working with folks that wanted to do advertising, given what a lot of businesses went through.
Yeah.
But they're really, if we wanted any video board at all, we really had to put it in for this year because if you were at a game, it was bad. It was like dead. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's time. And again, it's 5.5 years since when we had really made the decision to do that. So thank you for seeing it through. I think it's beautiful.
If you haven't seen it yet, please stop by and check it out because you're going to be amazed. I mean, it looks big from 100 yards away.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
great. So we will do a lot of things with the student broadcast network, put out better productions.
Have they turned it on yet?
No, there's, electricity's not hooked up yet. There's still a permit thing that needs to be finalized.
Let us know when, because I would like to
Okay, very good.
be there.
Watch party.
Yeah, I do. Thank you. All right. Finance advisory? No? Okay.
Just want to remind you, if you can give me a July date, you and Dr. Alls.
Okay.
Okay, in terms of when you're available to meet. Typically, we do it during the noon hour.
Yeah.
And make it available via Zoom as well. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I should cut away, yeah. Board policies and guidelines?
I don't have anything.
Nothing?
I'm still working on getting everything together. We didn't put the policies that we've met on this one because we have a few outstanding we wanted to put all together. So potentially we'll have that together in July, if not August at the latest.
Okay. Legislative liaison, I don't have anything. TCTC?
Like I said, we had a meeting last night, and so they updated us with student count in each of the different areas that they allow children to be a part of. Their curriculum, and so I will have that report at the next meeting.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, under old business, I spoke briefly with Dr. Alls that we had discussed about doing like breakfast with the board, and as this, we're just kind of moving along very quickly here, and she and I discussed the possibility of doing it like in August. So her and I will get together and hopefully decide on a date and get that done, so.
I would ask you to consider not doing it the second week in August because I will be on vacation.
Well, it's only her and I.
Okay.
Because it's.
That's
again,
right.
if
First
there's
one.
more, yes, if there's
Okay.
more than two of us. So you'll be on a rotation, don't you worry. You will be assigned. You'll be assigned, but we will let you know, okay?
Okay.
All right, anything under new business?
Under old business, are we still planning a work session we had talked about briefly?
Yeah, we should do that.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure that was.
Does anyone have any, do you have a preference at all for,
As of right now, no. I'm good. I'm open.
what about you, anything? Well, yeah, something definitely in the evening. Okay.
Okay.
And what about, are you out of town at all?
Yeah, I am.
Just checking our calendar.
Yeah, I'm checking.
I'll wait a minute. I just want to jot it down, that's all.
Okay, on the 19th of
You're
July and the 26th of July, I'm unavailable.
Okay.
And the 9th, 10th, and 11th. I'm sorry, the 9th through the 17th of August. I'm
Okay.
unavailable.
Okay. All right, we'll figure something out, but it will be in the evening.
Okay. Definitely not a football night,
Yeah,
Or soccer.
right, exactly.
or volleyball.
Okay, I don't believe we have anyone here to speak for public participation, so we will move into the agenda. On page 3, item 1, Mr. Flanagan, please.
Treasurer's recommendation. Minutes. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding the June 11th, 2024 board minutes be approved as submitted.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 4, item 2, Mrs. Patterson, please.
The revised budget and purpose statements. It is recommended the resolution listed below establishing the 2023-2024 co-curricular revised budget and purpose statements be approved as submitted.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 5, item 3, Mr. Walker, please.
Yes, cash transfers. It is recommended the resolution listed below for cash transfers be approved as submitted.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 6, item 4, Mr. Flanagan, please.
Fiscal 2024 final amended appropriation measure, all funds. It is recommended the resolution listed below for the fiscal year 2024 final amended appropriation measure for all funds be approved as submitted.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 7, item 5, Mrs. Patterson, please.
Fiscal year 2025 12-month temporary appropriation measure. It is recommended the resolution listed below for the fiscal year 2025 12-month temporary appropriation measure for all funds be approved as submitted.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 8, item 1, Mr. Walker, please.
Superintendent's recommendations. Agreements, contracts, and/or leases. It is recommended the resolution listed below entering into agreements, contracts, and/or leases A through K be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay. That's on page 11. And call the roll, please.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 12, item 2, Mr. Flanagan, please.
Authorization for disposal of board-owned fixed assets for the period January 2024 through June 2024. It is recommended the resolution authorizing disposal of board-owned fixed assets for the period January 2024 through June 2024 be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 13, item 3, Mrs. Patterson, please.
The Ohio Department of Education certification for Ohio Teachers Evaluation System and Ohio Principal Evaluation System. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding the Ohio Department of Education certification for credentialed Ohio Teachers Evaluation System and Ohio Principals Evaluation Evaluators be approved as submitted.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 14, item 4, Mr. Walker, please.
Yes, tuition reimbursement. It is recommended the resolution listed below for the tuition reimbursement be approved as submitted.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 15, item 5, Mr. Flanagan, please.
Acceptance of gifts. It is recommended this resolution listed below regarding acceptance of gifts be approved as submitted. And I would like to, on behalf of the board and Warren City Schools, thank Blessed Sacrament Church for their gift for our Lincoln PK through 8 school. And they donated new clothing and coats and food items with an estimated value of $2,000. We're very appreciative for all that they do and continue to do for our students.
Yes, we are.
Second.
Thank you. And call the roll, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 16, item 6, Mrs. Patterson, please.
The salary table. It is recommended the resolution listed below adopting said salary table be approved as submitted with changes as indicated.
Second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Patterson.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
And Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 17, item 7, Mr. Walker, please.
Memorandum of Understanding between the Warren City School District Board of Education and the Ohio Association of Public Employees, Chapter 288. It is recommended the resolution listed below be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson.
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 18, item 8, that will be Mr. Flanagan, please, and that'll go to page 31.
Mrs. Lamperos,
Yes,
I'm going to request that the board amend this item.
okay.
So
So I need a motion to amend.
in the motion to amend specifically, if you would like to turn to page 27,
Okay?
under classified item F, resignation number 1. I'd like to ask the board to delete the resignation of item number 1.
Okay, so on the floor, I need I'm sorry. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that the item number 8, beginning on page number 18, section F, and item number 1 in section F be deleted from the proposed item.
Second.
Okay, call the roll. I'm sorry. Yes, call the roll. We have a first and a second. Go ahead.
And discussion.
Okay. Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson.
Yes.
And Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the amended motion carries. And now we will move in to the agenda item on the floor. Amended.
Yes.
Personnel recommendations. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding personnel items A through J be approved as submitted.
I second.
Okay, and that takes you to page 31. We do have a military leave of absence on page 29. Kyle Huey, again, thank him for his service to our country.
Yes, thank you for your
Yes.
service.
All right, and if there are no questions, we will call the roll.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. And now we'll move under board recommendations. On page 32, item 1, Mrs. Patterson, please.
Which section? Okay, I'll find it.
Board, it's under the
Board
board
recommendations.
recommendations. Got it?
Got it?
Page restricted.
Board's recommendations, addendum to treasurer's employment contract. It is recommended the resolution listed below regarding an addendum to the treasurer's employment contract be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Patterson.
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos.
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 33, item 2, Mr. Walker, please.
Yes. Addendum to the Superintendent Chief Executive Officer's Employment Contract. It is recommended the resolution below regarding an addendum to the Superintendent Chief Executive Officer's Employment Contract be approved as submitted.
Second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. On page 34, item 3, Mr. Flanagan, please.
Expressing an intent to enter into certain advertising agreements and authorizing district representative to enter into such agreements upon compliance with all conditions precedent. Whereas the Board of Education of the Warren City School District, the Board of Education, by resolution approved the construction of the Recreation and Wellness Center, and whereas the administration has developed a standard sponsorship agreement to secure business advertising space on the digital scoreboard, and whereas the Board of Education hereby appoints an authorized representative, hereinafter called the authorized representative, to act as its agent during the solicitation of sponsorships for the digital ads at various tiered sponsorship levels.
That's good.
Second? Yep, second.
Okay. And call the roll, please.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, and the motion carries. We don't have anything under 11B. There is no need for executive session, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mrs. Patterson?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mrs. Lamperos?
Yes, motion carries. The time is 12:42, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.